Do you have a demanding boss? A boss who asks you to meet unrealistic goals or even impossible to reach goals? Come on, John! You and your team have developed this great gas engine with 97% efficiency. It surely will be possible to increase the efficiency a little bit. 101% efficiency is not a big deal. How can you deal with this as a manager yourself, being in the sandwich position? Stay tuned. For more leadership advice, subscribe to my channel and click on the bell to be notified when I upload new videos. During my time in middle management in a huge corporation, I had some tough negotiations about goals with sometimes very demanding bosses. I did not always do everything right, but over time I learned how to deal with these situations and how to handle unrealistic goals. Now we are talking about what you can do as a manager if your boss wants you to agree on unrealistic goals, or even worse, if he wants to set goals which are impossible to reach. Before we talk about demanding bosses and how to deal with them, let's have a look on how to agree on goals in general. There's a big difference between setting goals or agreeing on goals. Unfortunately, some managers don't seem to be very clear about this. Come on, John, we've talked enough. That's your goal, accept it. No, this is not an agreement. That's just setting a goal. What's bad about it? We need to set goals, don't we? Right. But you should agree on goals rather than set them. Because you need committed employees. Employees who want and are capable to achieve these goals. You'll gain nothing from just setting a goal and your employees are then not committed. That doesn't help you. The boss said that's our goal. Let's do what he tells us. Guys, that's not a commitment. If you want to have people in your team who think actively and who don't come to you with problems but with solutions, you have to agree on goals. You have to ask, you have to discuss, and you have to convince your employees about the goals. You need to negotiate about the goals with your employees, not just set them. For example, it can be very beneficial if you, as the boss, talk about the big corporate goal of your company, which your company just released, and then you ask your employee what contribution they want to make to this goal. What goals does they want to set to help achieve the corporate goal? A goal that your employee has set himself or herself that has a much stronger meaning for him or her. By the way, listen carefully to the ideas your employees have. You will probably be amazed at the high goals that motivated employees set for themselves. That was often the case when I proceeded that way. Okay, I understand that, but as a manager myself, what should I do if my boss is very demanding? He doesn't agree on goals, he sets goals, and sometimes these goals are very demanding. And now I have to convince my team to agree on them. How can I do this? That's not an easy situation. If you are convinced that you and your team can reach the goal, then it's important to convince your employees as well. If you're not convinced of the goal your boss set, then you'll have to talk to your boss. Try to speak to him and understand why the goal is so important to him. What is really behind it? If you know this, then you can make a counter proposal. In this way, you have a much better chance to change the goal. Sometimes bosses set unrealistic goals, not out of madness, but because they assess the situation and the resources differently. Well, John, the goal for you and your team is to introduce the new ERP system within the next 6 months. It will be tough, I know that, but I'm convinced you can do it. Sorry, boss, but 6 months, that won't work. That's not how you should respond. Simply blocking, that doesn't help. Instead, make a counter proposal. for example. I understand that we have to introduce the new ERP system as quickly as possible. I also promise you that we will work on it with full commitment, but we can't do it in 6 months. At least not with the current team. If we can temporarily get 2 external consultants, I think then we will make it. But if we don't get any additional resources, then it will definitely take us at least 10 months. Now your boss can decide whether 10 months is okay, or if he changes the budget and adds 2 external consultants for the project. Now the question may come up that what can you do if your boss really demands impossible things and if he won't change his mind about it? But what can I do if my boss really demands impossible things and won't change his mind about it? Come on, John! You and your team have developed this great gas engine with 97% efficiency. It surely will be possible to increase the efficiency a little bit. Take our sales team, for instance. They increased sales by 30% last year. 30%! It's not too much to ask if I want 4% more efficiency. 4%? Come on, 101% efficiency is not a big deal. Just ask the sales department how they do the 30%. Anyway, the goal is set, increase by 4%. Go. If your boss has unrealistic demands, you can't just accept them. You have to act immediately and you have to tell your boss in a friendly but persistent manner that this goal is impossible to achieve. In this case, it even contradicts the physical laws. You can't just accept impossible goals and pass them on to your team. That will not do it. If you did that, your team would no longer accept you. Your boss would later blame you if you failed to achieve the impossible goal. And 101% efficiency, this will keep you on your toes, believe me. Well, John didn't really disagree with his goal. Of course, I assumed that the 4% goal could be achieved, but I'm not a technical guy. He's the expert. And now we are in a mess. It's end of the year and we didn't reach our goal. And that will have consequences for John. So what should you do if your boss has totally unrealistic demands? Here are my 3 tips. First, clarity. Say it kindly but immediately, in a straightforward way and without beating around the bush. This task is not feasible. Second, counter-proposal. Make a counter-suggestion of what a realistic solution could look like and how a realistic goal could be set. And 3, consequence. If you have said no to an impossible goal from your point of view, you must remain resolute. You can be persuaded to accept a challenging goal, for example, 30% more sales or something like that. But an impossible goal to achieve, a goal that you have identified and named as such in front of your boss, you can't reject at first and then at the same point later accept it. You have to stay consistent and you have to say no, even at the risk that your boss will not like it. Yes, that might have negative consequences for you, but if you don't reach the goal, the consequences are by far worse. So sorry. There's no other way for that. If you like this video, please give a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much and see you soon.